Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spartan Scoop. I'm your host, Chris DeCoke, and today we're going to do another one of our deep dive episodes into the NACE career competencies, those essential skills that we know employers look for when they're making hiring decisions. Today I'm joined once again by Tory Nair, our career counselor, and our discussion is going to center around the skill of career and self-development. This is one of those abstract skills that's a little bit difficult to understand sometimes, but we break it down for you. We talk a little bit about what it looks like, how it shows up in the workplace, and how you can build this skill yourself as well. Here is my conversation with Tory. All right, Tory. So let's start with the basics. When we say career and self development, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think this is one of the most, confusing of the eight competencies because it's not as clear. Like technology and communication are very pretty clear. Career and self development is, I think, more about self awareness and just understanding your strengths, understanding careers that exist out there, and kind of how your strengths might play into those. And so, I think we underestimate as especially as young professionals, how important that is, but I think knowing your strengths and how that fits into the world of work, I think is very important. So that's what that means.
Yeah, thank you. So is this one of those things that only seniors need to focus on as they're thinking about entering the workplace or the workforce, or is this something that really you should start thinking about as early as possible during college?
Yeah, as early as possible. I think that, yes, it's gonna probably come to the forefront in your senior year as you're thinking about next steps, and maybe even in junior year as you're thinking about internships, but I think for sure, even as a freshman, even really in high school, I think it's good to think about what am I good at? What do I like? Where do I see myself? Do I see myself in an office setting? Do I see myself in a setting where I'm working with people? Like, those are kinds of things to think about, so that when you do start applying for positions, you're more confident in the decisions you're making, and you're maybe not applying to everything under the sun just to find what sticks. You're actually finding something that's going to be a good fit for you, personally and professionally.
Right, right. So we know from a lot of the work that we do that this is an important skill that employers are looking for, right? It's one of those top 8 NACE competencies that we're always talking about. What does it look like in the workplace? What does it look like on the job?
Yeah. I think it's the willingness to learn and ask questions and constantly grow. And just again, being self-aware of what your areas of strength are, and maybe asking supervisors and or colleagues to lean in, have, ways you can lean into those strengths, but then also knowing your areas of not necessarily weakness, but areas of growth and opportunity, and looking to ways to improve those. And so it might be, attending some professional development conferences or trainings. It might be, asking to sit in on a call or a meeting that you want to learn more about or something like that. And just kind of being open to new opportunities and learning, maybe taking on a new function in your role, whatever it is. I think that's how it plays out in the work in the workplace. I think it's more about just that willingness to self-awareness and then willingness to learn and grow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I often hear employers talk about this when they say they want people to have a growth mindset, right?
Mhm.
It's you never really stop learning. You're always kind of looking to how you can improve and grow. Uh, if you think about it, it makes sense, I guess, right? You
Yep.
you aren't gonna know everything you need to know for your whole career right after graduating college.
Yeah.
So you're probably
Yeah.
gonna have to keep learning as you go. So, uh,
Mhm.
yeah. So I guess would you agree that it's really more like a lifelong skill, right? This is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
thing you never really stop.
Well, and I think that I don't know, for me, it makes things seem less scary. Like, there's so much pressure on getting that first job and picking the right major and picking the right career, but it's nice. And I know we hear from students a lot about like, "Oh, I don't know everything yet. Like, how can they expect me to do this job, right out of college?" And it's like, "No, you'll be trained. You'll learn a lot on the spot, or on the job." So I think knowing that it's a lifelong process, I think actually helps ease the pressure a little bit, so you don't feel like you have to know it all right away.
Oh, that's a really good point, right? The flip
Mm.
side of this skill is that if you have this skill and you're able to kind of keep learning, yeah, it does mean you don't have to know everything right away,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
As long as you're willing to learn and kind of keep improving.
Yes.
If a student wants to start developing this skill right now while they're in school, what are some things that they can do? Um, to work on this?
There's a few things. I think obviously the big main one I would say is come talk to us in career services, right? We can have those
Oh, of course.
conversations. But besides plugging our amazing office, I would also say, just pushing themselves out of their comfort zone, right? Like doing something, trying something new, doing something that maybe they didn't anticipate. Join a club, maybe go on this social activity with some friends. Maybe go sit next to a new person in class. I don't know, just doing those things and putting themselves out of the comfort zone really teaches you a lot about what you excel at and what areas you need to improve, and then also allows you to see what values you have and what's important to you. So you might go into that student org and find your best friend and find the best, career, or you might go into it and go, "Yep, definitely am not made to do this," and that's okay. Like, I think just trying different things out, maybe it's a new class, and then things like reflection, like to get that self-awareness piece. Focus 2, we have that through our office, and other, kind of doing some research on careers. And that's where, like I said, career services can come into play. But I think just doing that research on yourself and what's out there, I think also is helpful. And we don't oftentimes take that time to reflect, but I think it's important to stop and think about what do we like, what are we good at, and how does that play out in the career world.
Yeah, and I would even say, just like we were just talking about how learning doesn't really end, I think that reflection piece of
Mhm.
what is important to me, what do I like, what do I feel good doing, that's also something that doesn't stop, right? We know that careers aren't really linear anymore, and people, it's really pretty likely that people are gonna make changes, career changes,
Mhm.
even throughout their lives, and so, spending some time constantly thinking about, like, "Hey, is this where I should be? Is this what I should be doing, or where else can I be going?" Is important to evaluate every now and then.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I also really like that you said that a lot of these things can happen outside of the classroom too. I think a lot of
Mhm.
it happens in the classroom, right? But I think there's so many opportunities like you listed outside of the classroom for people.
Yeah.
So when students are applying for jobs or internships, how can they show employers that they have this skill? Like, how do you demonstrate this skill on a resume or in an interview?
Yeah, I think on a resume, it's knowing, again, it's knowing what you're applying for, and then knowing your strengths, and then making sure that those are seen, so emphasizing those on your resume. So highlighting the strengths that are needed for the job that you have. And that's true in a cover letter too. And so you hear us a lot of times say in our office about tailoring a resume and cover letter to a position, but that's what that is. But you have to know the position you're applying for, and you have to know yourself enough to know
Right.
what are the things that I'm good at that they're looking for, and then make that connection for them. Interviews, though, is the time to shine. I mean, that's the time that you can really demonstrate, your knowledge of yourself and the career and how it plays out together. A lot of times it's really exemplified by giving examples. So being able to talk about, if they ask you about a specific when did you use communication skills, and you can give a specific time when you did that, it demonstrates that knowledge of yourself and your experience, but also the knowledge of how that ties into this job or internship. So I think that's the best way to do that, but I definitely can be seen on resumes and cover letters in addition to interviews.
Yeah, yeah. We always like to remind students that the resume gets you the interview, and then the interview is what actually gets you the job, right? So
Mhm.
that's where you can really shine and demonstrate those skills.
Yeah.
I only have a couple more quick questions for you here. Uh, are there any common mistakes that you see students make when it comes to this particular career competency?
I think one that comes to mind is just, I guess, kind of what we've already touched on, but thinking that it ends at some point. Like there's a point where you're going to know everything you need to know, or you're going to uh, don't have to reflect anymore because you're going to be in a job and it's all going to be fine for the rest of your life. Like I think just the mistake is that there's an endpoint, there isn't. And so just knowing that it's like lifelong and that you're going to constantly be reevaluating, things may change. I think that's important. So just kind of being, I mean, that's kind of the skill, right? Is being open to learning and new things, but it's also knowing that that's going to be continuous and it's never going to end.
Yeah, I see it sometimes with college students when when we're helping somebody with their job search and we say, "Hey, have you considered these extra certifications or taking taking
Mhm.
a course on Coursera or something like that?" And there's not everybody, but sometimes there's a hesitancy to take on like extra education on
Mhm.
top of your college degree. Um, when really that's something that's probably you're going to have to think about like a
Yeah.
lifelong thing, right? Things are always advancing and changing, especially like with AI right now, how fast things are going. Chances are, once you graduate, there are going to be new things you need to learn that weren't covered in
Yep.
college.
Yeah.
And knowing kind of where to seek those out and how to get that additional knowledge is going to be important.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, Last question for you. Aside from career services, because that's the easy answer,
Yeah.
what is another free resource that students might not know about that they can use to develop this skill?
Well, there's quite a bit. I think the two ones that come to mind is Focus 2, which is an online career assessment tool that allows them to look at their strengths, interests, values, and personality and how that fits with the career. So that's awesome. Another one is the Occupational Outlook Handbook or ONET Online, which has so much information about careers. I think Focus 2 actually pulls a lot of their career info from there. But that's really nice too. So if you're like, oh, I'm this major and I kind of want to do this, you can learn more about those careers and what that entails. And then also related to that is our What Can I Do with This Major site that we have a link to, and we're gonna, continue to expand upon. But I think that's another one that's helpful too, to say, okay, I'm majoring in this. This is what I think I want to do, but what are some other things I can do with this major? And then the final thing I'll mention is just utilizing your academic advisor too. Your academic advisor, you know quite a bit throughout your time at AU, and I think that they work a lot with us in career services and all the other offices on campus, and so it's nice to be able to kind of bounce some ideas off of them too, and they might say, "Well, it seems like you're really good at this because you've done really well in these classes," or, "Based on our conversations, you really seem to like this," and so then they can kinda work with you too. So don't just say because it's career services, they're the only people that can help me, because we definitely can, but there's other resources and people on campus too that can help.
Yeah, absolutely. I would plug faculty as well, right? I thought
Mhm.
that they're a huge resource. They especially at AU, they know a lot of people in
Yep.
industry and in the field. So they can often be a really big help as well. So those are great. Thank you, Tori. And I will also just say a lot of those resources Tori mentioned are in fact not free if you just Google them and go straight to their website. But if you access them through the Career Services website, they are free for
Yes.
students. So find them that way. All right.
Perfect.
Well, Tori, thank you so much for helping us break
Of
this down.
course.
If you are listening to this and you're thinking, okay, I totally don't have it all figured out yet, that is fine. Career and self development is about progress, right? Not
Mhm.
perfection. So if you want to talk more about it, I would encourage you to make an appointment with one of our fabulous career counselors. They love taking some time and really digging into this. So yeah, come and see us at Career Services. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thanks.